Good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of It's Hard But It's Fair. I'm your host, Arshawn. Tonight's topic is spicy. Typically, I like to stay away from stuff like this. I have a general rule. I don't like to talk about parenting, politics, and religion. They fight wars over that kind of stuff. But tonight, I couldn't ignore it. I saw a couple of things on social media that jumped out at me, and I had to get right into it. So tonight's topic is parenting and bullying. First off, the the job of being a parent is a uniquely beautiful process to begin with. I mean, all the way from the very inception, from the moment that a man and a woman decide to have a child together, the entire process is very unique. It's very beautiful. It's awesome. And as a parent, I've been on both sides of the parenting spectrum. I was on the side of the spectrum where I wasn't that good of a parent, and I'm on the side of the now I'm on the side of the spectrum where I don't think I'm as bad of a parent as I used to be. It's just because kids don't come with an instruction manual. First of all, they don't come with an instruction manual. You don't know what you're gonna get. On the Forrest Gump side of things. Life is, kids are like a box of chocolates. So you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how their personality is going to be. You don't know, what their interests are going to be. And it's an awesome, fantastic journey that I'm still on with my third child. And he's totally different from my first two children. And with his personality, he has revealed things to me about myself. That's the beauty of parenthood. The longer you work at being a parent, which I think is a lifelong thing after you have kids, the more of that will be revealed about you as a person, not only a parent. But tonight's topic is very touchy because most people, men and women, you come for their kids and you get a whole nother kind of person. And the first thing that I saw that prompted me to do a topic about this tonight, author Alexa Martin. I follow her on Instagram, and I saw, something in my eye. I saw a post where her daughter has a very unique haircut, and she's a very pretty little girl, beautiful little sister. And I saw the post. It says, I don't normally do this, but she says her child's name. I won't say that. Her child was excited about her new hair. And then she came home in tears because kids at school were making fun of it. And can anybody like this so I can prove her that they're wrong? Now, as a journalist, I have to be able to see both sides of things. I don't believe in absolutes, so I don't believe that I don't believe in black and white thinking. I do think that there is a gray area, and with that type of thinking, I have to be able to see that there is a negative and then there is a positive. And when that jumped out at me, I came up hard. I think I'm that last generation of kids to where you had to be in before the street lights came on. Mom was going to bust your tail, all that kind of stuff, all those good, wholesome qualities that a lot of us grew up with. You better make sure that your homework is done. You better make sure that you got your bath and blase, blase. So I come from a little bit different pedagogy than today's kids. So when that jumped out at me, I was like, should we really, question number one, coddling versus preparation. Should we coddle our kids, or should we prepare them for what's coming? Because I've read reports in my sociology class when I was in college. I've read reports that say 51% of children report being bullies at some point in time in their career as a kid. And 49% of kids report being bullied. That's almost half and half. Depends on how you want to look at it. So it appears that in school, you're either going to be a bully or you're going to be bullied. And when I see reports of kids committing suicide and taking guns to school and weapons to school, it's like, where are we at right now as a society in America? Where are we? First, let's define bullying. Story time with Uncle Arshawn. So my daughter came home, and I guess this was about maybe 3 years ago. She came home and she's in shambles. Oh, Dad, I'm being bullied at school. Mind you, don't let the way that I speak confuse you. I am from a no nonsense background. Okay, we'll say it like that. So when my daughter says this, I'm automatically in like gangster mode. Like, hold up. Who put their hands on you? You know, you have to remember, when I was in elementary school in the late 80s, early 90s. This is when I was in elementary school. So when I was in elementary school and you had a bully busted your lip, blacked your eye, gave you a wedgie, gut blows. You know, they had the game where they would hit you in your nether regions. I mean, just all manner of physical abuse. So when my daughter says, Dad, I'm being bullied at school, my brain automatically goes to somebody's hurting my baby. So I can't hear anything that she's saying. All I know is I'm like putting on my Reeboks, you know, and I'm like, I'm about to be that parent. We're going to the school. We're about to find out what's going on, because if it goes in a negative kind of way, I'm prepared for that. But somebody put their hands on my kids, and we need to go situate this. So I'm like, okay, Arshawn, be rational, calm down, don't be that dude. Sweetheart, tell me what happened. So she goes into this spiel. She says, well, there's these two girls. They always say mean things to me. And I'm like, okay, like what? She's like, well, for instance, we were playing Trivial Pursuit, and I was answering, you know, my daughter's real smart, but she's a good kid. She's not like that. She's like the girl who wants to be liked by everybody. You know, she's nice to everybody, even the girls who aren't popular and things like that. But she's really smart, and she doesn't, know how to give someone else a chance. And I guess these girls got frustrated with that, the fact that, she was answering every question. So they started, basically roasting her. And in my opinion, because I came up in, for lack of a better term, the hood, when you roast, this was a sport. This was a sport. I don't want anyone to think that I'm taking this subject lightly, this topic lightly, because it's not. This is just my personal experience with this. So in hindsight, I can smile and I can laugh and joke about it now, but at the time I was ready to go on one. So I'm like, okay, get to the, give me the Reader's Digest version. Bring on the violence. Who did something to you? And she's like, well, that's it. They were calling me Sparty Pants, and they were calling me teacher's pet, and some other, just, kid things, saying mean things to her about being smart. And I'm like, wait a minute, nobody hit you? And she's like, no, that's it. They're always saying these things to me. So I had to step back, because my first mind is like, man, you're not getting bullied. Get out of here with that foolishness. Honest thoughts. These were my honest thoughts. But I'm a parent, guys. I'm a parent. Excuse me. I'm a parent. So I have to put my dad hat on, and I'm like, this is a problem for my baby. Although my inherent thoughts are that this is not a problem, because if roasting was a problem, I wouldn't have made it through. I wouldn't have made it to high school, because it was a sport. Two guys would square off, and they would take turns. Older heads call it playing the dozens. We called it ragging or bagging. And this was a sport. And even if you were a spectator, you had to be mindful of everything that was going on with you. Like your outfit had to be up to par, your shoes had to be up to par, because if you were on the poor side, like myself, you couldn't laugh too hard, because if you laughed too hard, one of the roasters would turn around and be like, "What are you laughing at? Look at your sneakers." They would do the game like that. So you could inadvertently be pulled into a bag session just because you laughed at one of the baggers. So that's the mentality that I have. Like, that's just a rite of passage. It's just what you do. And I feel like that about bullying. I feel like, and I will get into that, and I will dig deeper into that, my belief on that. So my daughter tells me that, the girls are bullying her. She breaks it down, defines what it means to be bullied, the way they see it today. It's not a game. Her feelings were hurt. She was depressed about it. So putting on my dad hat, I had to really dig down and suppress my natural feelings about it and look at the situation as a parent. And I was concerned, because I've seen reports of kids taking their own lives because of the depression, because of this bullying. And then I had to look at it. We have evolved as a society. We have moved past the time where the bully picks on you, you deck him, fight, and earn your respect. It's not like that. I had a bully in elementary, and my dad taught me how to throw a right cross. And I remember hitting that guy and busting his nose, and we never had a problem again. And then I had a bully in high school, and I didn't necessarily win that fight, but I fought. I lost, but I fought. He was larger than I was, but I fought. And because I fought, it earned me a level of respect, because I fought back. Even though I got my ass kicked, I fought back. And I've recognized that we're not in the good old days anymore, where you stand up to the bully and you slug him, because kids will go to jail nowadays if you give your kids the advice. You go to school. This was my advice as a kid. My mom would tell me, if you pick up a brick, a stick, whatever you need to even the odds, you come home with a W, and that's what I was told. So I've recognized that I can't tell my kid that. So, and my advice at that time probably wasn't the greatest. But what I did was I took my daughter aside. I didn't coddle her. Maybe I should have a little bit, but I didn't. I was like, "Listen, let me explain this to you, sweetheart. There's always going to be someone in the history of your life that tries to make life hard for you. And we can call them bullies. We can call them neighbors. We can call them supervisors, co-workers. We can use whatever term we want to put it. There will always be someone in your life that tries to make it hard for you. Your job is to figure out, how do I deal with this individual? How do I circumvent the process to where they're trying to make my life hard? How do I circumvent that process to where here's me, here's them, there's them trying to make my life. How do I get around that process?" And I taught her how to roast. Like, I started giving her lessons on roasting. I told her, I said, "Well, can the girl's hair go into a ponytail?" She's like, "No, she doesn't have very much hair." Well, let her know that, her hair looks like a paintbrush, when she puts it in a ponytail or something. You got to learn how to jab back. You can't let people walk all over you. But on the other side of that, I also told her, I said, "Now, to make yourself feel better, you roast." I said, "But in the grand scheme of things, usually bullies have problems at home, and they take these problems to school, where they have some sort of power over smaller kids or weaker kids or more sensitive kids, and they demonstrate their pain, their distress onto other people. And every bully that I've ever known, if you follow them home, their home life is jacked up." And I told my daughter, pray for them. On the front end, say some stuff back, push back, because you don't want to internalize these bad things that they're saying about you. Push back, but off to yourself, pray for them. And don't pray anything negative. Pray and ask God to bring good things into their life. Pray and ask God to fix whatever is broken at their house. Pray and ask God to bring some joy and happiness into their life. Because if they have joy and happiness, they won't be trying to bring misery into your life. And my daughter had pretty good success with this form of, coping with the bullies, and eventually won these girls over and became friends with them. And just like I thought, their home life wasn't great. Their clothes weren't great. Their situation was a little desperate, is what we found out. So she was able to befriend these young ladies, and we were able to squash a potentially bad situation before it turned into severe depression, and maybe my daughter would have thought about taking her own life. But I am a promoter of preparation. I don't think it's, come here, little Petey. They're bullying you. Oh, that's my baby. Bullies are going to be in every facet of your life. As I previously stated, they're going to be your neighbors or co-workers or supervisors. And if we keep hiding our kids from the bullies of life, how are they going to be prepared when they leave the nest to deal with the bullies of life, to stand up to that supervisor who's not giving them their due? How are they going to be prepared to deal with an disagreeable neighbor who's being a jerk? How are they going to learn to deal with these tough things that come about in their life if all we do is step in there and problem solve? Which brings me to my next point. Is the emotional fragility of today's kids a reflection of under or over parenting? And there is a difference. Some people don't believe that you can overparent, but I believe that you can get too involved in what your kids have going on. And that's a very dangerous thing. If you ever sit back and watch young children at a playground, 4 or 5 kids, doesn't matter what nationality, similar ages, if parents stay out of the situation, even when they have disagreements, even when they have falling outs, they will sort of rectify themselves if parents stay out of it. How will my child ever learn conflict resolution skills if he's never involved in a conflict? How will my daughter ever learn how to resolve conflict if I don't teach her conflict resolution skills and then give her the license to employ them when she finds herself in conflict? I can't be involved in every single situation. At a certain age, you have to allow your children to exercise the things that you've taught them. And I will tell you, overparenting is a real thing, because I don't want my kids playing with certain kids. I don't want them, hanging in certain parts of the neighborhood. And it was like, I was sitting there one day and it's like, I teach my son to make good decisions. I'm on him all the time about good decision making, making the right decisions. Hey man, if you see trouble, you need to go the other way. Hey man, if those boys get into some foolishness, you don't need to be over there. And I constantly do that. But I don't let him go play with these kids because I think they're a rough sort. And then I think about it. When I grew up, I hung around some cats that my mom was not a big fan of, and on into my early 20s. And I had to be in those situations to learn how to make the right decisions for myself. But I got into those situations later on in life because my mom, no disrespect to her whatsoever, she did the very best that she knew how to do. But she kept a tight leash on us. So when I started making my mistakes, I was of legal age, nearly 17, 18 years of age, instead of 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age making these mistakes. I made them at a more detrimental time in my life. because now it's like this is going on your adult record when you make certain mistakes. And now you have misdemeanors and felonies on your record because you're going through these natural phases of life where you're supposed to be messing up and using your own judgment later on. So I've had to loosen up the leash, so to speak. I've had to not, just let go of the reins a little bit and start letting him venture out and hang out with his pals and hang out with his buddies. Even if I don't all the way agree with how they're being raised, because I want my son to make the judgment call. So he can hang out in the neighborhood. But I want you to know that if somebody's doing something that isn't right, I need you to come home. So tying that right into the bullying situation, if I prepare my children for the inevitability of dealing with a bully, then when they do have a bully, when someone does say something unkind, it won't be foreign to them. My dad's prepared me for this situation right here. When I see these young people, and I'm not putting blame for anyone taking their life onto a parent, please don't misconstrue that. But I think some of these kids who have taken their lives due to bullying have been overly coddled. I think that they have been ill prepared. And it could just be something simple as someone not knowing. Because like I said, my mom gave me some bad advice growing up. And it wasn't because she was a bad person. It's just because she came up hard and she knew what life was from her vantage point in society. It was hard. And where I grew up, it was hard. So I had to learn tough lessons. And I have that same mind frame to a degree with my children. I know that life can be hard. I know that everything isn't going to be sunshine and butterflies outside. It's just not. I don't care how pretty you are, I don't care how handsome you are, someone is going to call you ugly. And you need to know how to deal with that. Someone is going to say, you can have the flyest outfit on. Someone on Facebook is going to give you boo, thumbs down on that outfit. That's going to happen. And I think what's happened with us is that growing up, a lot of my friends came up hard. We didn't have the best of clothes. We didn't have the best of shoes. We didn't have money to spend at school like that all the time. We just, we came from a place of lack. And somewhat we parent from a place of lack. When it comes to this thing we call bullying now, this thing that's evolved into bullying, we come from a place of lack because so many people from my demographic, young black men, will tell you, man, that's not bullying. That was my initial thought. But as a parent, I had to look at it a different way. Am I willing to roll the dice with my child's life on whether or not this process is called bullying? No, I'm not. So I'm not going to play with it. But what I'm not going to do is go and fight every battle for her, especially one that she can fight for herself if she's prepared. Anyways, rolling right along. Has society's PC culture weakened the psyche of today's youth? Let me say this. I'm a big fan of comedy. Very big fan of comedy. Richard Pryor couldn't be who he is today if he existed today. You can't say anything. You can't say anything. You have to apologize for everything. You have to agree with everything. And I think because society at large today does not promote critical thinking, free thinking. If I don't agree with you, I'm hating on you. If I don't put a like on your post, oh, he must be a hater. You're a page lurker. If you don't think like me, you don't agree with everything I say, I'll unfriend you. I'll block you if you say something that I don't like on my post. And I'm like, when did we start doing stuff like that? When did we move into a space to where you can't have a disagreement? When did we start doing it like that? I don't know. But I think that the PC culture, the fact that you can't say anything to anybody, you can't disagree with anybody, has fostered this new wave of bullying. Because I will say it again, when I was growing up, bullying was accompanied by a black eye, a busted lip, bloody nose, something like that. Now, what we used to do for fun, I don't know, we were all poor, so I don't know why we would be roasting each other because we were all poor, and maybe that was one of our coping mechanisms, being poor, is that we would roast each other, because you're poorer than me, but we were all poor if we really think about it. And now that's morphed into what they call bullying. And apparently this is more along the lines of something psychological. That's what I think, versus when we were growing up, it was more physical. Today's kids are being bullied psychologically, a la the internet, a la social media, because we live in a society that doesn't allow people to really express themselves. We say we do because we have the transgender community and we have same-sex marriage. We say that we do, but we really don't, because we wouldn't have Kevin Hart apologizing for something he said whenever ago. We wouldn't have Jess Hilarious having to apologize because she said something. We wouldn't. And why do we? Why do I have to apologize? Personally, I have less respect for them after they apologize. That's how you felt. That's what you thought. Well, I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but this is what I believe. This is what I think, and stand on it. And I think that that's the way our kids have gotten to this space, to where they're so fragile. They're so fragile. And a lot of it has to do with us, because I'm personally guilty. My mother still believes in beating a kid's tail. She just does. And for a while, I wouldn't let her bring my kids around because my mom is very strict. And I said, listen, why don't we go to grandma's house? Because your grandma believes in laying the strap down. She will beat your tail, for some of the stuff that you guys do. Because today, we allow our children to do things that our parents didn't allow us to do. We allow our kids to have opinions. I remember once upon a time I was told, hey, if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you, pal. Now hush up and eat those peas. So it's very, very different. Our children, we give them more freedom in certain respects, but I also think that we hinder them a whole lot in their development when it comes to social interactions. And I think that the social interactions have been limited because of technology. We got tablets, cell phones, laptops, notebooks. They have so many ways to put a buffer between in between humans' interactions, that kids, I think, miss that. There's something that we are lacking in our society today when it comes to our children. And I think that is the act of interacting. That action alone, interacting, not texting, not FaceTiming, actually interfacing with another person and matching wits. And you don't have to be disrespectful to match wits. But today's kids, they don't argue because they never have face-to-face interactions. They text. They will text some vicious stuff to one another, or they will type vicious things to each other. But they never had that face-to-face. All you have to do is go to school and look. None of them interact. They just kind of walk up and down the hall like zombies, and they will text and they will type some of the most vile things. And then you see the kid and they're quiet as a church house mouse, So I think that's one of the things that's missing. We have to teach our kids how to interact. Or I think the evolution from where we're at right now with this bullying to where it's psychological, it's going to morph. because we've seen it morph from anybody who's, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 years old and under. I'm sorry, anybody who's older than 30. We've seen it morph from physical bullying to where now it's emotional and mental bullying. And I think it's going to morph to a place to where kids become somewhat sociopaths. Not to say that they'll do anything violent, just that they will lack empathy. They will lack an emotional barometer, because we're going to naturally evolve to cope with harsh environmental issues. That's what the human body does. The human body and mind will adjust and adapt so that we can survive. And that's what I fear, is that our children, due to this bully culture, the way that it is today, the next thing is that the children's psyche will morph to a place to where they lack empathy and they lack an emotional barometer. And we can already see that due to the lack of interaction between children, physical interaction with children, they're cutting off. They have this disconnect. They're I don't know if the phrase cognitive dissonance applies here, but there is definitely something wrong. So I don't like to be the kind of person who brings up a problem without having some type of opinion about a solution. Arshawn, what's the solution? I can't tell you what the solution is, but I do have some ideas on solving this issue. One, we have to have some play dates, for lack of a better phrase, where kids get tablets, phones, all of that taken out of their life, and they have to go deal. They have to go deal. We have to teach. We have to teach our kids how to interact. We have to teach our kids how to resolve conflicts. We have to teach. And somebody will argue, well, Arshawn, where are we going to get the time to do that? Personally, I work anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week, so it's very hard to find time to do that. Let me tell you something. There is nothing more important to me as a parent than my kids. So I'll find the time. We have to work to make sure that we are raising our children to be prepared so that they can be successful at living life, versus coddling them and crippling them. And then they go out there into the real world and face the harsh reality. Everything ain't sunshine and rainbows out there. Somebody's going to say something bad. Someone may do something bad to me. And if we're not preparing our children for this, we're failing our kids. Hey, it's hard, but it's fair.